Hello and welcome to this fifth video in our series of 10 involving the product configuration and product configuration modeling in Dynamics 365 for operations. I am Jens Christensen. I am the program manager for Western Computer. And today what we'll talk about is the calculation feature when you're modeling the product configurations. Last time we discussed a little bit about the constraints and how they can be used. The calculations adds to the constraints by enabling values to be calculated. So we can use decimal numbers and stuff like that to calculate when a product is configured. So what I'll show you here is some of the things that's already set up, and we can walk through and give you some information on that. So I will go into my product information management and go into my product configuration model, and we're using a licensed high-end speaker here, so I'll go in and open that up, and we'll look into this section down here called calculations. Calculations is very close to the, as I said, to the constraint and the word. There is a couple of things that needs to be aware of. You obviously can't do any table constraints or anything, but you can use the expression editor to write in your calculations as well. And you can combine and so on. And the example here, what it's been done is that we're in an assembly time is calculated based on some settings that are done during the configuration. So what you need to have, obviously, a name, a description, a target attribute. So you have to have an attribute that you map into this model where you can send the result to, or where you can put the result. And obviously that has to be in a decimal number for it to work, for you to be able to set that value correctly. So let me go and click edit here, see if we can edit this expression so we can take a look at it here. So it's the expression editor. The selections are a little bit different, as in the constraint you now have some more if and then and minimum and maximum and these types of values as well. And you can also see it's depending on where you are and what operators and what values you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the one that we just hit here. So in this example, it says it's an if statement including a calculation. So the statement tells you that if the speaker height divided by 3 is larger than 4.1, then the assembly runtime will be 1.25, otherwise it will be 0.75. So let's take a look at that and see what we find. So in this example here, the target attribute is the assembly runtime. The assembly runtime, once we go in, and that goes a little bit back to one of our initial videos, you actually can't see it here because that field is hidden. And the reason for that being hidden is that it's not something that the user needs to make any considerations about, or the person who fills in the configuration model. What that is used for setting up runtime in the operation settings, so in the routing settings further down. So we find here you can see that this is hidden. So just for reference, we're going to unhide it so we can see it, and then we can test it and see what kind of values we do. So now we see we have our assembly runtime. We even see it's mandatory. The reason it's mandatory, it's not set to be mandatory up here, but the reason it's mandatory is that it's a mandatory field that needs to be filled out on that routing. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill out some stuff here just to see. So let's take a speaker height, and we said if it's speaker height divided by 3 is larger than 4.1, then it's 1.25, otherwise it's 0.75. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 12, and we see it's going to be calculated automatically. That's because of the calculation. If I go to 15, you'll see it's changed to 1.25. So that's a little bit about the calculation. It's a very strong tool and can be used at many places here as well. Just to give you a little insight on this one, the assembly runtime, how that's applied in this example, and just to try to give you a red thread on how it actually ties together, is that if we look at the route operations, and we can look at the assembly here, see here, this is the operation called assembly. And if we go in and take a look at the route operation details, we can see that the runtime is actually defined by the calculation that we did. So instead of setting in a predefined value, we can point to an attribute type, which is this hidden field that we don't touch during the configuration, but it's applied in here. So that's how it all ties together. So thank you again, and stick around for next time, where we will talk about setting up the BOM lines and route operations as well, where we can actually see how it all ties together. So have a great day, and see you soon.